Hey everybody, Cory Mosley here. Welcome to another edition of Progressive Retail. Today we are finalizing my three-part series on health, wellness, goals, achievement, peak performance in the new year. My final interview was taken with Michael Rizk. He's a former car guy turned fitness expert that's going to provide us some great information on health and wellness. Let's get to the interview. I'm super excited today because I get to have somebody that I've known for a very, very long time join the show. It seems like I think it's almost been 20 years ago when I had on my golf shirt and my khakis and my official pager and brown belt. And a few cubicles away from me at a little Toyota dealership in New Jersey was the guy I'm having on the show today, Michael Rizk. And Mike and I sold cars together, and I would always go into the lunchroom, and while all of us were ordering our pizzas and our chicken parms, I'd go in the lunchroom and I'd see this guy in there with shredded chicken and all this Tupperware and all this other stuff. And while I sat there, overweight, he always looked pretty good. And he woke up one day and decided that he wasn't going to be in the car business anymore. He was going to follow his passion, which was health, wellness, and fitness. So I thought no better person to have on the show, but a former car guy who knows the lifestyle inside of the dealership turned fitness guru, Mike Rizk. Mike, thanks for joining the show today.
All right. Thank you, Cory. I appreciate the opportunity.
That was really exciting there that you just did. Could you be less excited to be on the show today, sir?
Cory, I'm just reminiscing on all the times we shared together. It was so much fun. And I get excited to be able to share kind of what brought me from where I was to where I am. And hopefully I can impart something of value to the people tuning in today.
Well, listen, I know for sure that you can. Listen, weight, health, wellness is something that a lot of people are challenged with. I've been dealing with it for years as well and trying to get on that straight and narrow. And no better place or worse place to be more challenged by that is inside the car dealership. So I thank you for taking the time to share some health and wellness tips with us today. But I want to get started in a particular area because it goes beyond just activities. We're going to talk about mobility in a little bit too, but your big philosophy also revolves around the idea of the mental aspect, the mindset piece that goes along with really taking a proactive approach to health and wellness. Talk to us a little bit about the mindset piece and your philosophy when it comes to getting fit, wellness, and just kind of that whole piece.
Right. So for the first 10 years after I left the auto industry, I was obviously serving inside of the realm of personal training. And I, like many people, took a very physical approach to helping people improve their health and happiness. What I realized, though, was after 10 years of having a body focus, that people were essentially getting nowhere fast. No one was really coming to, enjoy the transformative process of taking care of themselves. And the people who would become successful, honestly, mostly fell back into their old patterns. So I made a discovery about 7 years ago that people come to me to enhance their body, but it's their mind that holds them back, and it's their spirit that suffers. And that insight has changed the way that I engage with people. And now what I do is I take a very much an inside-out approach. So I think the easiest way to put it into words is rather than focusing on health, I actually focus on helping people to create a happy lifestyle in which health becomes the byproduct.
Why do you think so many people struggle at simply taking better care of themselves?
Yeah, well, it's very easy to look at the behaviors and get wrapped up in all the things that we, should be doing or the things that we're not doing. But to focus on the behavior is, you have to appreciate the difference between a manifestation and an issue. So a manifestation could be the fact that someone's actually not taking care of themselves. But the question is, it really comes back to a sense of worthiness. And so I have a little bit of a catchphrase I share with my clients. Self-care is easy when you care about yourself. And for a lot of people, that's a very big shift in understanding. And they say, well, of course I care about myself. And so then I'll ask, well, why is it your behaviors don't reflect that? And so that question and that conversation is really what begins the transformation process, is being able to see your life and the way you're carrying yourself through another lens, so that you can challenge your assumptions and your notions and your beliefs, so that you can start to behave yourself into becoming who it is that you ought to be.
How do people break free from excuses and the excuse behavior that plagues people inside of dealerships when it comes to simply, everybody knows that a salad is better than a chicken parm sandwich, right? That's not an education piece. But how do people break free of the excuses, in your opinion, that stop them from achieving their health and wellness goals or ideals?
We can't keep ourselves motivated or inspired long enough to eat the salad just because it's the quote unquote right thing to do. So we have to do a little bit of digging to understand, well, what would be the driver behind that? So for instance, somebody might say, you know what, I really value longevity. And so I say, okay, well, what would be a decision at lunchtime that would reflect that value? And so now what I'm doing is I'm throwing the ball back in their court, and I'm not asking them to eat the salad because it's the right thing to do. I'm asking them to do it to support their value for longevity. And as you start to make decisions consistent with your values, it changes the entire approach. But it's not, we can no longer subscribe to well, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. And so the other quote that comes to mind is Nelson Mandela, may your choices reflect your hopes and not your fears. And I think that's a big one because we have to appreciate that all behavior, all of it, is preceded by our emotions. And so the question is, if there's frustration or anger or nervousness or jealousy or resentment or whatever it is, if there's a fear-based state present, it's most likely that you're going to make a protective decision in that moment. And so it's not about changing behaviors, Cory. The key is to help someone change their emotional state. Because when we're in an optimal emotional state, the behaviors that flow from that are naturally the quote-unquote right things.
Wow. It's much deeper. I didn't know that we would be quoting Nelson Mandela when talking about how to drop a few pounds in the dealership today. But you raise really a super important issue because people really only drill it down to, making the decision to eat healthier or pack my foods or go to the gym. Like, they make it very black and white, but clearly, in some of your points here, you're really going a little layer deeper that I don't think most people ever kind of reconcile with. But let me switch gears for a second here, because inside the dealership environment, right? It's not like everybody's sedentary. It's not like you're actually, an active salesperson, somebody who's putting units on the board, right? Guy doing 18, 20, guy or girl doing 25 cars a month definitely is not doing it at their desk. So when you think in terms of a traditional model where everybody's got their Fitbit or their Apple Watch on, their steps, you can really go through a dealership in parts, service, sales, walk in the lot, going to prep, and rack up the points and the steps. However, there's a difference, right, between simply taking all these steps and burning calories. That's different than mobility, right? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so there's 3 key areas of the body that we want to consider. It's our ankles, our hips, and our spine. And these are important because they're what's called torque converters. They transfer energy through the body. So when they become gunky or glued down because of things like gravity, which imparts itself on us 24/7, because of the sitting and the repetitive stresses of texting and watching TV, because of previous injuries, these areas tend to not move as well. So even though we are getting from point A to point B, how you're getting there is not necessarily the most efficient. So if you, for instance, have rolled your ankle 20 years ago, you could be the guy selling 25, good motion through your body, and that will affect the chain reaction. You will break down over time. So it's not just so much doing the motion, it's also getting it to come from the right place.
Now, you brought a few moves. I want to talk about a couple moves that you said people can do, a few moves to share with the viewers. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so again, goes back to thought process. I don't ever tell any of my clients to do anything. It's more about helping them understand why we're doing it. So just let's appreciate one thing. In life, we can see that when people's lives are out of balance, it leads to all sorts of symptoms. Now, people usually hire me for those symptoms, but I'm not interested in addressing the manifestation. I want to get to the issue. And the issue is there's an imbalance at some level, so let's create balance. So the way that I frame this in for my clients to help them engage is I ask them to picture their life from a demands and resources standpoint of view. And so most people are vulnerable enough to say, you know what, the demands in my life are greater than the resources. And so what that means is that they're living life in survival mode. And so one of the questions I ask is, in an effort to create balance in your life, number one, how can we reduce demands? That could be leaving work at work. It could be looking to live out your values on a day-to-day basis. It can be showing up for people in your family. And then also, how can we increase resources? And so one of the ways that we can increase resources in our lives is to actually move in a healthy way. Now, notice I didn't say exercise. I'm hesitant to use the E word because there's such a negative connotation with it.
Okay.
But one of the quotes that I share is that exercise is optional, but movement is mandatory. We have to move. And so every movement that we perform, even if that means squatting down to pick up a set of keys or walking across the lot or reaching for something, those movements place a demand on the body. And so the question at that moment is, does the body have the resources to accommodate the demand? And what comes to mind is the person who says, oh, I turned the wrong way and I threw my back out.
Right.
Okay, that was the straw that broke the camel's back, but there's been a breakdown going on for years and years. So my number one goal with my clients is to restore movement health so that we can increase the resources in their life to help them balance out the demands.
Okay.
And so
talk to me, because we're running out of time. Talk to me about the 3 movements.
Okay, so we're going to start with the spine. Basically, we want to get the person to move their spine in 3 planes of motion. Every joint in the body moves forward to back, side to side, and rotate. So I'm going to show them how to move the spine in that way.
Okay.
Then we're actually going to zoom down to the hips. We're going to apply the same exact concept. And then as you start to do these movements, you start to pick up on the 3-dimensionality of the body. And then we extend that strategy all the way down to the ankles. So from the nose to the toes, we're fully mobilized and then therefore stable in all 3 planes of motion, ready to do all the activities we have to do during any given work day.
Also, you have a pretty comprehensive program online. I know you're developing something potentially for the auto industry, particularly because you understand their issues. But right now, you've got a comprehensive program online. Where do people find that or information on that program?
Right. So they can go to conditionforlife.com, and that's FOR, not the number 4. Conditionforlife.com.
You took the long road.
Yes, I did.
Most people do the shortcut. You said spell it out.
Yes, spell it out. Let's go for the gusto.
Man, Mike, I'm glad we had the time to talk today. It's always good seeing you, and I continue to congratulate you on your success.
Thanks, Cory.
Thank you. Well, that concludes our 3-part series. I hope you really enjoyed this information and can take it and go to the next level. And I know people use the term go to the next level all the time, but what my hope is for you, that you find a new area, an area of improvement, an area that you can get stronger, faster, more mobile, reach your goals, and continue to move forward in 2018. This has been another edition of Progressive Retail. I'm your host, Cory Mosley, and I invite you to visit us online at mosleyautomotive.com to learn more about how we're helping dealers become more progressive and profitable. This has been Progressive Retail, exclusively on the CBT Automotive Network. I'll see you next week.